Hey everyone, welcome back. I have a dear friend here, Dr. Shannon Irvine's here. She's a PhD trained neuropsychologist and entrepreneur and the founder of the S.I.N.C NeuroCoach Models. We're going to talk a little bit about why that matters. And she helps entrepreneurs, high achievers, executives rewire their brains to accelerate success. So if you've been wanting to have more abundance and success in your life, this is a podcast for you. She blends neuroscience, strategy, and timeless biblical principles around her training and helps everyday people achieve a year's worth of results in just 67 days. She's a sought after speaker and high performance business coach, and she is passionate about helping others, people just like you, break through their limitations and unlock their full potential. And we're going to talk a little about her book, well, a lot about her book and more about her method and why she came to this place of sharing her book and life with you. Shannon, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here and glad to be with your community. I'm in your community, so it's very cool to be on the podcast and share our experience that we've gone through over the last year together.
It is a harrowing experience, no matter how it might seem to the people on the other side, because you have to actually pretend like it's going to be okay when inside you feel like, oh no, it's a mess. Life's hard. It's crazy. And that's a little bit about what authorship is. And we're going to talk about that because it's one thing to see a book put out there by a colleague and you think, oh, that's great. I want to do that. And it's another thing to be behind the scenes going from idea all the way through the process of launching a book. We met several years ago with Pat Flynn, our common mentor and friend, had a in-person event retreat for many of us who are in his world. And you started noodling around. I have a book idea. So I think I need a little more time, but I think I have a book idea. What was that gestation period like when the book started to call you?
Gosh, it called me in phases. I think for me, the big realization was we help so many people in our coaching programs and our coaching certification and our high level CEO program, but not everybody will step in the door of that kind of place. And so first wave of it was, I just really want to get this in the hands of everybody. I think that's where it starts, is just this desire of like, look, I know not everybody is going to come in and really hardwire to the next level and really learn how to do those kind of things. But what could I do and how could I get it in their hands? And what if it's from the mom who's sitting there with a brand new baby to the empty nester that's just not going to maybe come into my world, but I want them to have these methods, these models that have changed my life so dramatically and took me from stress success to automated success in a way. And I hate even using that word success because it's so overused. Yeah. But I really wanted to get the tools, the methods in the hands of everybody. I think that's where the seed got planted for me way back when. And I'd say that's been, well, heck, I don't even know what year we were taught. What was that, like a decade ago? Probably. We were somewhere near it, it feels like.
I think it was 2018. So
okay,
it's been a
while.
while.
That long ago. It's getting there. Yeah. So that's where it started. And then that kind of idea of I want it in the hands of everybody to this is a movement that I must put out started to grow. And I think that's important for that transition to happen because, yeah, you see all your friends, your colleagues, oh, one day I'd like to write a book. And I never had that thought. To me, that was never I like to work with people like we're talking now. And so it really wasn't there. But when I know I couldn't reach everybody, but a book could, and it started becoming one of those things that I just couldn't turn off, then I knew, okay, time to get to work.
Yeah. The idea of being able to serve people you may never actually physically get to interact with, it's exciting and challenging because you want to be able to help them and explain to them. And if they could just get this lesson, if they think about this, there's so much you could put in a book. How did you distill this down into the 67-year day plan? Like, how did that?
Well, I'm, again, very fortunate that we've worked with thousands of people, mostly entrepreneurs, business owners, those who are starting side hustles. That typically is who I wrote this book for. Just people who have a dream, a desire, an outcome that they want to accomplish that maybe they've been working on for years, but they haven't been able to actually see it get traction. those are the people I get to work with every day and hear their stories. And usually it's one of my early questions that I ask: how long have you been working on this? And the average answer is over 10 years. And that was the case for me too. Before, I always say the doctor in front of my name stands for desperate enough to go get a PhD to figure out why I couldn't break through my glass ceiling that I was trying to break through at the time, that I just turned to my brain working differently than my mentor. And I know I've shared this story with you, Azul, but I did what every normal entrepreneur does, and I'm saying that in air quotes. And I hired a mentor, not Pat, a different mentor at the time, that had the life I wanted, the business like success that I wanted, the family kind of success. And I figured that she had some magical, secret unicorn behind the scenes, that when I worked with her, that I'd see and I'd find, and then I'd make it all work. And I discovered in that moment with her, when I invested and I got in and started working with her, everything that she was doing to grow her business is I was already doing. Like, it was already like the strategies and tactics were all there, but she thought differently, literally, about everything, about worth, enoughness, capacity, ability, how she impacted people. That started me on this crazy road of like, how do I just get my brain to think like hers, which ultimately ended me up in a PhD in neuropsychology, really trying to figure out how do we think differently, and how do we break down patterns that have been literally pumping the brakes for years for us. And so I think that's really how I was able to disseminate what we do, is certainly having experienced it myself, and then knowing that I wasn't a special unicorn. When these models, these neuroscientific models and methods really started to work for me, I knew, okay, I'm a good person, but I'm not, that special outlier, right? And so my clients at the time, I had about 10 offline coaching clients at the time. And I said to them, like, I know you're getting good results with what we are doing, but I want to add these neuroscientific models and see if we don't get some speed to happen to this result. And not just one, but 100% of them, all 10 of them, had enormous jumps in their sales, in their profit, in their just overall results within their business and with their teams. And so I knew I was onto something, right? I knew, okay, well, if it works for me and it works for them, we now know that this is how the brain gets wired. And that's when we started coaching other people to really know how to do this. And that's how I knew, like, if I can just put these simple methods, when we think of neuroscience, we think complicated. They're so simple. It's almost a crime that we don't actually learn this in school. But once you learn them and apply them to whatever it is you're trying to go for, you now can see where your brain was stopping you, why, and be able to do something about it instead of just wishing and wanting.
Yeah, it's incredible. Our brains are such an interesting tool. They work for us or against us. Tell us, because I know a lot about the book, obviously, because I spent a lot of time, but I'm trying to remind myself, everyone else doesn't, that why 67 days? Why is that the magic number? Why can't it be more or less? Tell us more about why in neuroscience this is such an important kind of click.
It is a click. And you may remember back in the day, it's 21 days to make a habit. Well, what's really going on behind the scenes with 67 days specifically is that's the amount of time that it takes to build a neural pathway toward the thing that you want. Now, here's why this is important, because like, that's great information. And I know back and I would hear that and I'd be like, great, but I don't want to spend those 21 days or 20. So whatever the erroneous number was at the time. Here's the thing that your listeners really need to hear, and I needed to hear back then, is 90% of our daily decisions, and therefore our actions, and therefore the results that you're getting currently right now, you're not actually choosing those. Those are being hardwired and fed to your mind from your subconscious. So it's running the show 90% of the time. And why 67 days is so important is we take you through a process of really getting clear on what you want, erasing, we call it CEA, not CIA, but CEA, clarifying what you want, erasing patterns that will keep you stuck in that 90% working against you, and then automating the new pathways so that they're running autopilot and they're creating the 90% that aligns with the vision and the place that you want to go versus the place that you've been. And so that's the significance of 67 days. We see if we do scans, we don't in our programs, but we can see through neuroscientific scans, is well studied now, that it takes about 67 days to have your brain go through a process of building, erasing, and then automating that pathway that you want or that neuroplasticity that you want. It's a process. And unfortunately, these great ideas have always, you've probably heard of it, right? Oh, my neuroplasticity, my brain can learn, or synaptic pruning, my brain can take these things away. But what I discovered even when I was in those rooms is nobody was trying to solve the problems that we have, which is, how do I then do that so I get a result, right? How do I actually use any of that? And so this 67 days is about the time it takes to clarify what you want, erase or remove, synaptically prune the ones that will stop you, and then automate or put on autopilot the ones that will take you to the dreams, the destinies, and the vision that you have.
That's incredible. It's such a simple principle. And I think that's what you said. It's sort of so simple that it's sort of a bit surprising we're not teaching the way our brain works.
Yeah.
And I think what I've observed is this unconscious thinking goes all the way down to the simplest of habits, like saying things to ourselves. I'm not a morning person. You create these pathways unknowingly. You believe that you're not a morning person. You have evidence you're not a morning person. So you then live it out. And any other little pattern that's then becomes subconscious is affected by that programming. And what you're saying, I think, is that if you're aware that you have these patterns and that you're able to then erase them and replace them, you're going to get the result that you're actually looking for, not the one that you're programmed for 90% of the mind not knowing and just unconsciously doing it.
Great. You know, the metaphor I love using for this, Azul, is most of your listeners, I guarantee you, they're motivated. They're already thinking about maybe writing a book. They're probably doing some pretty incredible things in their life already. And so I call that the metaphor of like putting your foot on the gas. Like most of your listeners, if they're listening, you probably don't need to encourage them to do that. They might not be like completing it, but that's okay. They're motivated to. So I call that the foot on the gas. But I just want you to imagine, like, you get in your car, you start your car, right? You're ready to go, and you start to drive away with your foot on the gas, and you slam your foot on the brake at the same time. What's going to happen? You know, like, think about that. Like, picture that. Like, you kind of either stall out, or, which means that word that we say a lot to ourselves, we're stuck, or we spin in circles and we feel like we're really busy, but nothing is getting accomplished. All that is these patterns. Here's the best news of all. They're super simple to remove, and you didn't create them, and it's not your fault. And most of these were created in your childhood of origin, environment of origin. We don't need to go back there. That's what I love about this methodology, is you don't have to go camping back into that. You just have to start to recognize what those are and know that you can't outperform, out hustle that subconscious patterning, but it is so simple to remove those blocks. And once you do, it's like taking your foot off that brake. It's the result becomes, just obviously going to happen, not because you're doing more, but because you're actually subtracting something. You're taking something away that's been literally holding you back.
Yeah, I think a lot of people notice that when they're writing a book. Actually, what you're saying is that their mind says, I really want to write this book. I have something to say. And they go to write, and their other part of their subconscious mind says, you're never going to do this. You're not any good. No one will like it. You're going to laugh. Yeah. What if no one reads it? And on and on. So most of what I train has nothing to do with writing. I train people to let go of the thoughts they have about writing so they can write. And a lot of it's my coaching, even though I don't know a lot about neuroscience besides what I've learned from your book, is that you can really help and aid the process of letting go by noticing that you have these mind patterns. Most people don't know. They try to rationalize. Well, they'll rationalize away these problems and they just stuff them right back down. And my job is to, if you're not afraid, you're not doing it right. Because fear is what is the fuel for this sort of work, this creative work, because it's an uncertainty.
in the reality, in terms of your brain, the fear that you're feeling, that's a neurochemical. And what that's signaling is where you are right now. Your brain's job is to keep you safe. Safe means right where you are, nothing new, nothing ever changing, nothing ever new. Everything we want is outside of that. So every time we say, and that's a lot of the reason why we teach, yes, we teach you how to clarify, erase, and automate. But once we've done that, teaching you how to get your brain to stop working against you when you're setting goals, because in reality, you're telling your brain, I want this thing. Your brain's looking for evidence that it's done already. It sees that it's not. And it sends you neurochemicals that manifest themselves as fear or as perfectionism or as procrastination. We think it's some flaw that we have. And in reality, it is your brain being super optimal, but it's just aligned with what you have now currently versus what you want. And unfortunately, Zul, you and I have talked about this a lot. All the goal setting processes that you've been taught your entire life literally put you in direct opposition to how your brain will allow those results. And so I'm on a mission to change how people approach even putting out a desired outcome and building it in a way that you could start to get your brain's 90%, that subconscious part, to work for the vision versus against it. I jokingly say, because we all had this experience on some level, right now it's like you have that 100-pound middle school bully on the other end of a rope, and you're tugging against it, where we really get to align that vision with where it's safe to go, where you want it to go. And once that happens in your brain, then results just go so much faster. Even in our programs, we call it a 67-day year. Yes, because that's the time it takes to create the pattern. But at the same time, we do see this time after time after time with results with our clients, that when we hit that 67-day mark, most of them are accomplishing what they set out to do in a year in that 67 days. And it's not because it's some magical thing. It's because it's how your brain is wired. You take the foot off the brake and make it safe to achieve the things that you want. And then your brain becomes the supercomputer to make it happen.
Yeah. That's incredible. How do you stand, and maybe this is putting you in an awkward position about challenging a colleague, but like someone like a Joe Dispenza, like they're teaching. Do you find conflict in that, or do you just say that they're approaching it in a way that's different? Because there's a lot of information out there.
His work is really focused in on meditation and what's happening in the brain when that happens. It's what I love about my colleagues like Dr. Joe Dispenza and even Akaf and all these others is they're studying and teaching people a very specific part about how the brain can work. What we're doing is we're giving you the roadmap and the tools to actually follow to get to the finish line. It's just a different focus. I love the work he's done with what, he brought into the mainstream what fires together, wires together. That's a commonplace in the neuroscientific rooms. We know that. It's based on similar principles. I think his focus being optimizing through more nothingness and meditation, which is great. And for people that are high achievers, that are builders, that are visionaries, it's not that is not good. It's just we can leave that process and say, okay, now still what? Because now I just walked onto a stage and now I'm afraid, right? Now I'm putting the book out and I'm afraid, or I want to launch this business, but I'm going to keep working on the website for 3 years until it gets out, right? So I always say, like, I was trying to solve, by joining that PhD, my undergrad, everything in my life had been business up to that point. It was to solve me. And so I know as doers, as creatives, as people who want to create and put things out to the world, I needed a step-by-step plan, because I couldn't get my mind, and I don't know how you feel about this, Azul, but the idea of, like, and I'm going to say it the way I hear it in my brain, so forgive me if it offends anybody, but the idea of mindset or those kind of things, they just feel like they're hard to get your hands around. Like, okay, great, but how, right? Yeah. Because, like, get the zone. Okay, but how, right? And the reality is I needed more concrete how does this change my brain? How do I, in the initial hypothesis is, how do I think like her? And that became this obsession. And so the no opposition, I think everybody has kind of their sweet spot of what they lean toward. And for us that are kind of the crazy few that are out there trying to build and put creative things out into the world, we use the scientific principles first through me, then my clients. I said I'm the original guinea pig, and then my clients were. And then now the mission is get this in the hands of every single person, starting with the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the authors in the world. And then the next path, and I think I shared this with you as well, is I'm going to be consulting right now with Point Loma University, but we're working on getting this rolling out within college students. And the big goal is ultimately that our kids learn this early on so that they don't build belief patterns that then take them out of their true calling. So yeah, I love all the work that's being put out there. Mine's just more, here's how you get it done.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. It's very practical. These steps are very practical. Let's talk about this shift towards an entrepreneur who's out there. Maybe they have a book, they have a system, or they want one. They want to, their coach, they want to grow it. How do you foresee this book helping both their business and serving others? Because there are people who read the book who might never join your programs. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
But how do you see this growing your business? Because a lot of people wonder, is the book writing process worth it? Will it help is it helping me as I'm writing it or preparing to launch it? Is it going to help my business in the long run? Where are you at now? Obviously it's not out. It's coming out at the moment that we're talking at this recording. It's getting ready to launch, but as it's out, how do you see it changing what you do?
Wow. That's a great question, because that's changed a little bit. The original idea in Azul came to me and said, okay, like if you work with Azul, he'll take you through this process. Like, what's the main goal? And as I was working through that, for my business specifically, this is what we do. And it is something that I want, whether you join a program of ours or not, I want it in your hands. And I want you to know that you can have a 67-day year. And I want you to know how. And for those, there will be a group of you that say, not only do I want to read, but I want somebody to coach me through it. And then of course we have that capacity for you. But that wasn't my main goal going into it. I am of the belief that like you plant the seeds and the harvest comes. And I just want to be faithful with the seed and that's been entrusted to me. And if somebody buys the book and they do the things that come with it, and I, of course, as you know, I have some great bonuses that are coming with it, then they're going to get some traction. And if they want to go deeper, they can, of course, join us. If they are a 7-figure business owner and they're needing to do this with their teams and all that, we can help them. But the ultimate goal is really that 67-day year becomes something that shifts the marketplace, that we don't think in terms of time and things we want, but that we hardwire the next thing. That's my big desire.
Let's translate that to your work on the book, because it's one thing to talk about this as it's done, but as you're writing and as you're getting sort of the work out there, what was the challenging part that you had to apply your own methods to writing or creating this book?
Well, I will tell you, I don't think I've shared this with you, or maybe I did as well, but I'm not sure. I can tell you, I'm going to work backwards and answer that question. When we ordered some authors' copies to be able to get in the hands of some of our colleagues, we've been working on it together for a year. I've been working on it for a lot longer than that. When it came and the boxes arrived, I didn't have a big emotional experience until I opened the box, and I pulled it out, and I was like, I literally bawled my eyes out. It was like, it's here. It's like, really, it's kind of, not that there's any comparison, people, but it's close to the feeling of like when you put all your heart and soul in something, it's like having a baby. It's like, oh my gosh, it's real. And now I can put it in people's hands. So I just have to share with you, that was quite a moment for me and my family. And we all hugged and prayed, and it was really cool. But the experience. So here's a couple things. When I started, I thought, of course, you always have these grandiose ideas. I thought I was going to sit down and I was going to just like feverishly type on the computer and it would just be there. And then I sat down And if you'd see it in the old days, it'd be like that blinking cursor, but that doesn't happen anymore. And it, like, literally, I just stared at it. What I had to uncover, Azul, is what kind of writer am I? And what kind of writer you are is what kind of thinker or processor you are. And luckily, I know enough about that I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. I'm a verbal processor. Like, I can write something, not understand it, say it out loud, and completely get it. Like, it's just that drastic for me. I'm a verbal processor. So I'm like, okay. So I tried for like a month. And then, of course, I heard all the things my brain was serving me. Maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe this isn't for you. And then I thought, well, what if I used that strength of what I'm naturally and as a verbal processor? So I shifted over to utilizing a tool, an AI tool, but not to write, just to transcribe. And I ended up writing the book verbally.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I made that shift, because I think that could probably get a whole lot of authors that process like me to stop dead in their tracks, just feeling like you're back in school and having to write a term paper. Like, it all just came back to me. Now, some people, like my daughter, she can sit down and write, these beautiful things, and that's how she does it. And I'm just so enamored by it, but it just wasn't me. And so being able to recognize your own natural style and being okay with it not looking like what you have dreamed about, with the coffee coming up, and, like, I have pictures in my brain, right? So that was an interesting discovery. And then the other discovery, I know you probably have a lot of families that listen to you, a lot of parents and that kind of thing. My thought was, well, I'll just blend it into my normal business life. So my Fridays, typically, I call sandbox days. They're days on which I work on other projects that are not going on in my business. So I figured, I'll use Fridays. I'll write every Friday, and that will be fine. I found I couldn't write in the environment that I'm in. So some interesting discoveries that could have stopped me. Like they literally could have stopped me. But I thought to myself, okay, well, where do I feel the most creative? And I love that question, because immediately I went back to Cardiff Beach in San Diego, and I said, okay, well, now I know I need to speak it, not type it. And now I know I need a space, not my current space. So I took 3 trips out to San Diego. I literally had the book verbally written within the first 2, and then an editing round within the third. And so within, honestly, like a week and a half, it was written verbally. Then the process began. But really, I think it's just noticing when your brain's going to stop the process, and not making that mean that should stop the process. And I think that was a big thing for me. I don't have any idea if that's normal for all of your clients, but that was definitely an interesting journey for me to figure all that out.
Yeah, a lot of my clients have had this discovery, because we do have a grandiose belief that we'll go in a cabin, I'll just get away. I've even had clients tell me, no, I'll just get away for a week, a month in Sedona. And they come back, I said, how was Sedona? I'm like, well, Sedona's great. I didn't write anything. I'm like, uh-huh.
That was my first trip to San Diego. That was my first trip. I literally was like at my favorite cafe, and I'm like, yes.
Like, word 1. Oh, crap, I'm stuck. It's true.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's a common experience. And one of my clients, even though he did write his book on a keyboard, he developed an app called VoicePal, and that's Ali Abdal. He's a doctor, and he wrote a book about feel-good productivity, but he realized it would help people, even himself, if he could transcribe his thinking, so he could be doing it anywhere at little bursts of time. So I'll put the link in that for VoicePal. But these apps, these things that are happening with AI, are helping people capture their voice, because what I say is that sometimes your words can get in the way of a really good book.
Yeah, true.
And what I mean is that it's the message that matters more than the words. The message is simple. For your book, from my point of view as the reader, is you can rewire your brain so that you can achieve more and have more success in less time than you think. Yeah. And that's what I when I was reading your book, I was like, this is the message I'm getting. Everything should be reinforcing. Everything should be helping me get better at understanding this. And that's all a book really is. It's a simple gesture towards, if you change this one thing, even if it's just the way you think about the year or think about your brain, you're going to have miles more success than if you ignore this. And so I felt like your message, even though at first I was like, what is this 67-day year? I didn't understand. And that's why I pushed on it, because I was like, I don't know. And then I was reading, I was like, oh, this makes really great sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this before we push into like where we might find more about you. Is like, what advice would you have for these beautiful leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, experts who are sitting there thinking, I could write a book?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would say, if you can't put it out of your mind, if you are obsessed with people using what you've gone through to make a difference for them, if you can't shut up about the things that you're doing, like I can't, I think it's not just a you should, it's a you must. I'm a big believer, especially now in the AI generation, that original, critically thought through pieces of work will become, and we're seeing it, right? There's a big resurgence in books and buying books and all that. We're seeing a big push because there's a gluttony of information in the marketplace. I mean, but there's disseminating that information and coming to a place where there's tools and processes and things, even just a way of that you overcome your grief or that you personally process through something. Doesn't need to be business related, but if you've gone through something and somebody is suffering that could use that, then I feel like if it doesn't disappear from your mind, then I feel like that's the call. Like that's the call of the author. And I feel like it's a must, because it's going to become increasingly more human and important for people to be able to read, learn, and experience through the lives of others. And the book will help you get the fear out of the way. But if we don't, then I always say people are just sitting on the sidelines suffering. And so I would flip the fear. We always call it flipping the success switch, like flip that fear and just imagine people that are where you were or haven't experienced what you have. And if they could know what you knew, would it make their lives better? And if the answer to that is yes, then I would say you are an author, and now you just have to get the words on paper.
Oh, great advice. That's great advice. If you haven't heard this and really intrigued by the work already to help rewire your brain, maybe you're sitting with imposter syndrome, maybe you're doubting whether or not you can do this. 67-Day Year is a great book to help you unlock that. Where will we find more about you, Shannon? I'm sure people are going to want to know where to get the book, where to follow you. Tell us all the things.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, you can buy the book on all the normal platforms, or you can go to 67dayyearbook.com, which hopefully Azul will link down there for you. Yep. If you buy it, bring that receipt and enter it in there. We're going to do some cool things because I'm an audio and visual. We're going to actually, for the next 3 months or 4 months, we're going to give that audio book away completely for free. So That's really, really cool. We're also adding a workbook to help you work through the models in a very personal way. And then we're also giving you a 30-day pass into our coaching program so that you can walk alongside a coach as you're starting to do this amazing work that's going to accelerate your results. So those are some amazing free things, like over $5,000 worth of value we're popping in just because we want this in your hands. So 67dayyearbook.com. And of course, Azul, you can see me on the Epic Success Podcast or Instagram, all those places too.
Wonderful. Well, Shannon, this has been great. I'm so excited that this is your book baby is being birthed and that this is a culmination of not just the years that you put into the book, but of the work you've done with other leaders. And I'm so grateful that we get to share this with people and that we can help people shift the way that their future success comes to them by just rewiring their brain.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on and letting me serve your tribe.
It's been a pleasure. I can't wait for people to read it.